Hello, it's Peter Mead, and welcome to SEO Surgery APAC. This is the second episode. It's really exciting to be hosting these webinars for the SEO community in Australia, Asia and Pacific. And today we've got three terrific guests. Before we go into the website reviews, I just wanted to quickly do a bit of a plug for the Australian Search Awards on October 23rd at Sydney Opera House. It's a very prestigious award and we're very much looking forward to it. So to find out more, go to semrushawards.com. And while we're getting organised, I'll go through and as more people are joining the webinar, I will just introduce each of our guests today. So we're very honoured and privileged to be joined by Jono Alderson, and Jono is well respected. He's a digital strategist, marketing technologist, full stack developer, passionate about technical SEO. There's a bunch of things I could say. I've seen Jono speak. I've been at conferences with him. I've learnt so much from Jono. So over to you, Jono. What's hot in SEO for you right now?
Thank you. Such kind and misguided words. No, it's been fun. What's hot at the moment? I am obsessed by site speed and performance at the moment, which we will dig a bit deeper into when I look at the site auditing. But I'm so obsessed about it. It feels like Google is on the warpath for user experience, and whilst they say that speed isn't necessarily an explicit ranking factor, it underpins so much of what user experience is. Like, things need to be reactive and fast and sleek and frictionless, and that goes beyond just fast loading as well. That's as I interact with things, as I try and shop, as I try and research. Like, everything needs to be lightning fast. So I'm really diving deep into the technical side of performance optimization and strategies around that. It's really interesting.
Yeah, thank you so much. Definitely the sort of thing we need to be keeping our hands and fingers on the pulse. That's for sure. So let me go to the next guest expert, Corey Wolf. And so Corey is a well-rounded SEO, digital marketer, many years of experience. And he also runs the digital marketing meetup in Adelaide. And so Corey, what's hot for you in SEO right now?
Hey Pete, how you going? Thanks for having me on. Hot right now. Well, look, hot for me really is a good quality content strategy. I'm not sure if it's hot right now, but I feel like it's always hot. Making sure that you've got a clear objective for the things that you're trying to achieve with your website and your SEO, and then tying your SEO back to those objectives and having good quality content that underpins what you're trying to achieve is really important. And I think it's what a lot of people are missing at the moment. They're really focused on building a site, building a pretty site, but not really thinking about the functionality, how it works, how users interact with it, and ultimately how it converts for the customer.
Great, thanks, Corey. So now I'll welcome Nik Ranger, and Nik Ranger is an SEO specialist focusing on digital strategy, data analysis, and content for businesses large and small. And so welcome, Nik. What is going on for you? Yeah, welcome along. What's going on for you in SEO? What's hot?
Well, firstly, I just want to say hello to the other guys, Jono and to Corey. It's great to be here. What's hot for me at the moment? I'm having a lot of fun playing around for the last couple of months with the new Search Console. I mean, of course, we know that tracking is incredibly important for SEO, but the new Search Console is awesome because it accesses different data that the old Search Console just couldn't. So it's kind of like a bit of a reskin of the same kind of data, but it seems to really launch separately on a different subdomain in order to keep the information about the two indexes overlapping and creating duplication and confusion. It's really, I'm having a lot of fun with that.
I just got a couple of questions, and I thought we'll just quickly answer them, then we'll keep moving and have more questions at the end. But just quickly, there was a question here about what's the recommendation for the maximum number of plugins on a WordPress website? What you got something? Yeah.
I think so. There isn't a solid number, but it's worth understanding that there are, and this is an oversimplification, but there are two types of plugins. There are plugins which alter the way in which WordPress works, things that change how the backend server behaves, the way the database behaves, the functionality in the admin, etc. Those you need as many as you need in order to make your site work the way it needs to work. The other type of plugins are things which add bells and whistles and features to the theme and to the front end, things which add sliders and lazy loading images and those sorts of things. Those you want as few as you possibly can, because if they are components of your theme and things which you rely on to show the front end to the end user, those you should be working into your front end. And when you remove all that cruft and unnecessary overhead, you can make it much sleeker, you can make it much more integrated. So definitely, if you're going to audit what you've got, divide them into those two types and then try and remove as much front-end stuff as you can.
Yeah, and of course, a lot of those plugins will sort of just kind of stack the script on top of each other, and then that will just kind of just really impact your page loading speed. So just kind of turning off ones that you don't really feel like you really need, and just doing a bit of a constant audit on that.
Yeah,
if I can
question
add
here.
really simply.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Corey.
If I can add really simply, my rule of plugins is as few as you can get away with. That's just the rule for me. It's just the bare minimum.
Yeah, this is one more question, which is a bit iffy here. I mean, it's just saying we want to get a clean website and bring it to 100% on Semrush site audit. I mean, it's a very subjective question, right? I mean, how do you get 100%? What does 100% even mean on an Semrush audit? But it's just saying here is the question is it better to use a CMS or any thoughts about that? I mean, what does 100% mean on an audit anyway?
I have some thoughts around that. I feel like it doesn't necessarily matter about your CSS. Arguably, if you're using like web builders like Wix and Shopify, there are things that may have limitations with particularly around site speed. But there's still some very, very creative workarounds. But if you're not really willing to invest in that, I feel like I don't know. I'm an advocate of WordPress. So in a very general sense, it kind of, to quote Jason Munn, it kind of really doesn't, a bad SEO blames his tools and not actually, I'm paraphrasing this all wrong, but all I'm trying to say is that it's not really that dependent on CMS. But in terms of like, in terms of like getting 100% on Semrush, I feel like Semrush is a kind of like, it gives you really good hints to maybe like some greater issues that are happening with the site. So it's a good indication, but it isn't like an exact measure. I mean, like everyone else has said, it's, sorry, what Corey was saying, that it's not really definitive. Yeah.
Well, let's keep going with the next audit, and we'll try and get some more questions later. So the next audit here is Nik Ranger will be doing it. It's awesome. Randstad.com.sg. So it's a Singapore website. And what did you find, Nik? What did you? How'd you go with this one?
Oh, okay. I will just put on the screen share. That's playing music. Excellent. Okay. Excellent. A little bit of Benjamin Clementine. Anyway, yes. So looking at randstad.com.sg. Yeah. So I guess like let's just jump into it. Maybe just for a full bit of context, to me, what a full SEO audit would contain, kind of like I've looked at like sites versus competitors. I looked at on-page SEO and off-page SEO. But for the purpose of this, we have like 10 minutes, so I'll try and be quite brief. So let's jump into it. Yeah, so just some bullet point information about Randstad. They're a recruitment company in Singapore, recruiting for businesses to find skilled employees, and they liaise with job seekers to find them roles which they'd be suitable for. Find that they're a good B2C and B2B kind of lead generation. Their target audience is primarily job seekers, managers, and I guess some like HR staff looking to outsource or get expertise to fill roles for a large range of industries. But I couldn't really find what CMS their site was built with, so I'm kind of just assuming that it's custom built. If anyone else knows, that'd be awesome. But yeah, so looking at Randstad's current stats, and as I was saying before, Semrush is great for being able to show us this data. But if you can figure this out with analytics, you can figure all this stuff with analytics in Search Console. Having a look at their overall traffic and their keyword profile, the site looks pretty good. Their organic traffic is growing relatively linearly, save for a few dips here and there, but all in all, like it's progressing quite nicely. They're not running any Google ad campaigns. Their home and category pages rank well for some really competitive keywords at both branded and non-branded, which I think is really awesome because I thought they were doing this part quite well. Ranking well for like non-branded searches, so people actively looking for like recruitment services and jobs. Like it's generally speaking, when you're searching for the brand you're already familiar with, you're kind of like broadening your lead potential. All right. Yeah. Well, that's all good and dandy, but context is absolutely everything. So I wanted to have a look at where Randstad stood, like in terms of like their competitors. So the thing that Semrush does extremely well, in my opinion, is they show incredibly useful data about their site's competitors. So we can see from a search perspective, their top competitors are Hayes, Michael Page, Robert Walters, and generally speaking, and sort of going back to the other website, if this doesn't match where the client's thoughts of who their competitors are, or it looks wrong, often that's a sign that the keywords they rank for doesn't really match or aren't as many as the competitors they have in their particular industry. So yeah. So just delving a little bit deeper into that, we can see how many keywords that they rank for in terms of their competitors for traffic growth, the cost of that traffic, branded and non-branded. So the insight we can sort of glean from this is that Randstad is doing quite well in comparison to their competitors. They take up considerable amount of the real estate in the SERP for their keywords, but where they really, really win is they absolutely dominate in the field of organic traffic. But of course, there are always opportunities and areas for improvement. The keywords Randstad rank for are mostly related to their services for like quite broad queries around job seeking. So my thoughts here is to kind of like leverage that competition is maybe they could have like FAQ pages that refer back to like a main category landing page. So yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Also just included some keywords here to kind of like around like salary survey for their competitors, because they release like one every year, and that's like an opportunity I think that Randstad should at least consider throwing their hat in the ring for, because that generates a lot of traffic for their competitors. And I think with where they are at the moment, yeah, I think they should kind of like start chipping away at their competitors. All right. Yeah. So of course, here we've got the Semrush SEO audit tool. So this is kind of, for me, like looking underneath the hood of a website. It's great for getting quick analysis of the technical functions of your site, but it's not really always the most vigorous tool, but it does a great job of giving hints. So the site doesn't perform that well, and there's quite a lot of work that is letting down the site overall. And this could be due to having a custom CMS, typically needing a lot of custom development work. And if there's no one keeping track of the technical SEO issues, these tend to be neglected. And this is something that I see a lot with custom CMS sites that sort of come to us and like, we've just had a huge drop in our rankings, so we have absolutely no idea why. So the kinds of things that I prioritize from these lists that can really hurt the site in terms of security, things like in terms of security. So if the site has an SSL certificate, the next thing that I generally look for is for any mixed content. The reason why I do that is that a lot of browsers block active mixed content by default. So when you're clicking through the website and then you see like this this kind of like page loading, like insecure content, unless the user actually says like trust the site and clicks through, yeah, it doesn't have like a really good user experience. So I would replace that with a HTTPS version. And of course, broken pages. So I did a bit of a crawl with Screaming Frog, which is another great tool. If you haven't used it, please, please, please do, because it gives a lot of great insight that Semrush may or may not have. But I looked at, they've got quite a few 404 broken pages here. So generally, I like to look at what they are and where they're sort of like, we're meant to be pointing to from their root URL. And if I don't really find anything that I can replace it with, sometimes I'll just 301 direct it to a corresponding relevant page on the website. So that's something that we can do there. In terms of site speed, it didn't really stack up all that well. And as you can see here, using another website's GT metrics, which is awesome at being able to show by this script in like a really nice waterfall. If you can see that there, the waterfall, it will be able to show you where it's really, really letting down. But on that kind of the first page, to be able to enable the gzip compression, leverage browser caching, defer parsing of JavaScript, all those things that I've got there are kind of like quick wins. So if you can look at optimizing that and replacing that code, then you're going to be able to really see a lot of great improvements in the longer term. Another thing that I like to check, and this actually just did well, but I think it's just really, really good just to keep in mind, like does your site point to the right correct version? So that's like so just doing like this kind of test, and you can sort of see I've got like a nice Chrome plugin that just checks that, and this is something that worked well, which was good. And I also wanted to like sort of point out like some other kind of basic website checklists. So the things that we didn't see, like with the Google AdWords, they didn't have any of that. They didn't have any thank you pages. So there could be maybe with goal conversion, like goal set up in analytics, they might not have like that landing page to sort of measure whether that's sort of the click-through, the customer journey through those clicks. So I thought that might be something that hasn't been set up. And of course, the site speed, as we saw earlier, really needs a lot of work. Yeah.
Thanks, Nik. Lots of good points there. Again, site performance, site speed is another big issue. URLs, there's some pretty common issues that we see. Yeah, I think we all see these kinds of things with URLs. And the other panel experts want to make any comments on this?
Yeah, definitely. So bizarrely, a lot of what they've done looks really sophisticated. Like there's some really clever stuff going on the site. For example, remove jobs, return a 410 HTTP status, which is like a 404, but it means permanently removed, which is quite advanced. But that's really clever. It's really good practice. They're doing some really smart stuff with their analytics. They've got like a really sophisticated data layer solution set up. So they're grabbing bits of the page and attributes of the job and passing that to their analytics systems. It's really advanced. But they're running HTTP 1.1, which if they've moved to HTTPS, which they have, they should definitely be on HTTP 2. And it's like one line of code for a developer to enable that at a server level. And instantly, everything just becomes faster. Like if you look at the way the site loads and you use these tools, every image that page loads, every piece of JavaScript is creating a new server connection, and it's adding seconds and seconds and seconds onto the time it takes to download these things. Like the easiest thing in the world they could do, they've not. And then yet everything else looks quite advanced and very strange. Yeah, definitely turn that on. Yeah,
HTTP I guess these days. Also get a Cloudflare and move to HTTP 2. It's definitely a thing. So, Corey, did you have any quick comments on that as well?
Yeah, but you stole that from me, Pete. So I'm done.
Yeah, we took the words out of your mouth. We're sort of going quickly through time, so maybe I'll just keep going on. But there was one question which I thought, there's actually a lot of questions coming. We can't answer them all, but there is one here which I thought might be a good one for people where Manfred said, should we be focusing on long tail keywords for a start or short tail keywords instead? When I'm assuming when he's talking about at the beginning of trying to get some SEO happening. Any comments on that one?
Do you want to go, Corey, seeing as your slot got stolen?
You're quite a gentleman. You're quite a gentleman. Always long tail. So we're looking to get wins in the beginning above everything else. Once you fast get those wins, you're going to feel a lot better about everything. And long tail is just an easier thing to target because you've got a lower search volume and therefore a lot amounts of competition. So most definitely long tail is my tip there.
Yeah. Well, let's keep going. So there's lots more questions. Hopefully we'll get to some more at the end. But I just wanted to move on to the next site audit, the third one. So Jono has been given the job of auditing and checking the batteryspecialists.com.au. And when I had a look at it, it looked like lots of URLs. So what have you found, Jono? Was it was there lots of things that can be improved?
Let's see if I can share my screen. 1, 2, 3. Right, you'll have to tell me off if I'm running out of time. I've got my phone open in front of me with the timer on, so hopefully it'll be all right. So, can everyone hear me? Can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Excellent. So let's look at the battery specialist. This is an exciting website, isn't it? So these guys do everything batteries, power devices, car batteries, AA batteries, batteries for remote controls, batteries for stair lifts, batteries for everything. And it looks like this. So I've approached this because I've only got 10 minutes. This isn't comprehensive. I've essentially plodded around the website and looked for obvious issues and opportunities. It's not in depth, it's not thorough, it's not even particularly systematic, but I had fun just looking around it. And the first thing that became apparent is that on the homepage, this monstrosity is just one enormous image. This is a huge JPEG file. And the reason that's interesting is the two things. One is that consumes most of the space of the visible space above the fold on the page, which if you're a user or a search engine coming to browse the site and understand what it's all about, the fact that all of the visible space is taken up by one big image that contains content that isn't easily readable by search engines because it's bits of a JPEG is a pretty big deal and a bit of an issue. But it gets worse because you sit and wait and watch that, actually this is a number of enormous images. There are 2 or 3 huge images here, which if I skip back and forth, you can see are actually the same apart from the color. But there's a huge amount of JavaScript being used to load and cross-fade these different images in different colors. Now, there are much more efficient ways to do that, and that clunky carousel is responsible for slowing down their homepage enormously, for adding a huge amount of inline script and overhead that isn't necessarily helping anybody or and may actively be hindering Google's ability to consume that content. There are definitely better ways to do that, and they should investigate in things like CSS transformations and animations and fading to just achieve that color effect rather than loading megabytes and megabytes of images. Which got me looking into the JavaScript. Like if their homepage carousel is heavily dependent on this, then presumably other areas as well. And indeed, it turns out if you disable JavaScript, which gives us a much more accurate view of how Google might encounter and interpret the website, you can immediately see that there are issues, i.e. all of that homepage content vanishes, all of the stuff sourced in those images, which rely heavily on JavaScript, vanishes, and Google's ability to understand what the site is and what it does suddenly rapidly diminishes. Essentially, over-reliance on JavaScript for presenting and structuring key elements of your websites is a really bad idea. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with JavaScript, and you can use JavaScript as a framework if you follow best practice, and you'll be absolutely fine. But if you're arbitrarily using big blocks of JavaScript to do important stuff without a fallback, you're really going to confuse Google and other agents and limit their ability to crawl and parse the site. Also, as you scroll down that homepage, you can see that what should be some of their key elements to help Google understand what's important and where their biggest commercial opportunities are. Their key products, none of them are loading because they all rely on JavaScript to pull through the key information. So this is a really poor experience for Googlebot. So point 1 and the key issue here is that Google essentially has no idea what's going on this website. Structurally, its ability to explore, to derive context, to understand the brand proposition, all of those things are really, really hampered. Also, so presumably that kind of approach is usually put in place, this lazy loading approach to manage performance, but then when you mouse over some of these navigational elements, you can see that these are rammed full of images. There are 30 or 40 subcategories here, which each have a big image. And not only are we loading all of these images quietly in the background, which obviously takes time and resource, these images are actually really huge. They're about 3 times the physical space that they need to be in that space, and then they're shrunk down and compressed. So when we look at how long it takes the site to load, this is the Google Chrome developer tools, you can see that we've hit 2 and a bit seconds, going on 3 seconds before we even start to get anything visible on the screen. This is pretty painful. You can see down the bottom here, we've got 163 requests, and we've transferred almost 5 megabytes. 5 megabytes of information just to show that initial view above the top of the fold. That's pretty scary. And this persists throughout the whole site. You can see that consistently there are these issues with loading too much stuff that's unoptimized, that's too big. This is a product image on a page where you can see the bit I've highlighted. On the page, this is 420 pixels wide and tall, but the image itself is 1,000 pixels. Now, there are techniques you can use to approach this much better. You can use things like src set tags, which allow you to specify multiple options. You can use all sorts of approaches to serve the right image at the right size, which makes things hugely faster. So the site is slow, and this is a real issue. Obviously, speed is a critical part of UX. We know that slow sites cause abandonment, etc., etc., etc. Speeding this up will directly impact revenue. And if it provides a better user experience, that will also impact rankings, which will get more traffic, which will directly impact revenue. This is not rocket science. For reference, this is what good looks like. Quick plug for Yoast.com, where I've spent the last 6 months or so getting this much faster. This makes 26 requests and finishes in just over half a second. This is achievable. This isn't rocket science or magic, just following best practice and loading fewer, smaller things and making it all much more efficient. Related, I note that of all the myriad of JavaScript and CSS files they load, this is the coverage report in Google Chrome console. You can see the red bars represent the portion of those assets that they're not using on that page. So they're loading megabytes and megabytes of JavaScript and images and CSS. And in most cases, at best, they're only using 50% of those scripts. They really need to refactor all of that, spit it out, and only load what's needed for any given page. This is very, very wasteful and very, very slow. So not only does Google have no idea what's going on, but essentially the crawl budget and Google's ability to work through that site and find new pages is pretty much shot because it's having to download 5 megabytes of assets on every single page. That's not great for UX. That's enough of that. Let's go a bit deeper and explore, just under 4 minutes. Open up Google, site:/batteryspecialist.com.au. They have an issue where the www version is accessible, so I've excluded that. And everything looks pretty reasonable, but exactly the same as earlier. When we dig a bit deeper, we start to see some interesting things. Why is the title of this page "Write Your Own Review," and why does the URL look broken? There are lots of these, and when you open them up, you can see the issue is this is a product page that has no content at all. It has a missing title, so Google's tried to invent and work out what's going on, which is why it says "Write Your Own Review," because it's the only content on the page. But there are many, many products like this where it just looks like they've not had any love or attention, they've been a bit abandoned. The challenge here is that every single page on your site counts. You can't have 10 great pages and 100 bad ones and expect to do well. The overall user experience, the quality of the site and the brand, and Google's understanding of that will impact you overall at a brand level. So whilst they might have 100 products out there, however big their catalog is, that are their key focus and they're really important ones, having all of these dead ends and empty pages is going to be hurting Google's perception of them overall. They need to sort that out. And there are loads of these. So this is one of the most popular products. This is the Nava Taurus Classic Chrome Bull app. I have no idea what that is or what it does, but it's got no content either, whereas it should. So I accept that this might be a challenge in this industry. These are highly technical, generally not very different products, and it might be an industry level challenge that it's hard to produce content about. Except if we look at their competitors, we can see that they have done this. They've invested the time and the resource to talk about these products and to provide interesting information. In fact, that bit that I've highlighted on the page is only a subset of the information about the same product. They've got loads of information about use cases and approaches. So other people can do this, and they do it at scale, which means that there's a challenge of investment and time and focus here. They can do this, they're just not. Interesting. So this is a GIF. This is what happens when you load this on a mobile. You can see not only is the first impression pretty poor, the product quality, the image quality is not very great because it's scaled from the wrong size, but you can see as the page loads, there's that weird jump effect where it changes the layout. That's because they're relying very heavily on JavaScript to load all their CSS and their styling. So again, they've got all this weight and all this overhead. They're not using it to great effect. So the page is waiting to load all of that before it can manage a layout. That's not a good user experience. The question is, why should Google rank these product pages? And I don't think that's a good idea. They're not great quality. They don't have great media or assets. They don't have any content or descriptions or information. Comparatively, they're not as good as competitors. What they are is marginally cheaper than the next guy. Like all of these products are consistently about $1 and a bit cheaper than their competitors, which might be enough to get a bit of links and attention, but it's certainly enough to win. It's certainly not a sustainable SEO strategy, because any minute now that happens and they undercut and they eat markets. You can't win on just being slightly cheaper instead of having a brand. So not only do we have all of these issues, there's essentially no reason for Google to rank any of these pages. There are some easy wins. I'll go through in 40 seconds. Let's play Spot the Difference. These are all of the products in the category for Century Life PR4 Deep Cycle batteries. As a general consumer, I have no idea what the difference is in these. They do have some really extensive descriptions, which is great, except when you run them through Copyscape, you can see that they're all stolen and or copied and or shared with other retailers, so that's not particularly valuable. And even their category pages will have the same issue. All of this is shared content, missing images. I think the challenge is that writing differentiated copy for these is going to be very, very difficult. It's going to require serious investment of resource and creativity. The challenge is that for search engines, all of these pages should be consolidated. There should be one page for these. Shut up, phone beeping, saying I'm out of time. I've got 30 seconds left. These should be consolidated. Like the same thing, except that users want to browse and select by voltage. They're educated. They know what they want. So maybe they could re-architect this a little bit so that these clicks go to the same page, but just pre-select the right product variant. So they could introduce some, this is not a screenshot of the real site, I whacked that in, but they could do a model selection that preloads, and then suddenly they go from having a huge site of undifferentiated content to having a site that's maybe 10-20% of the size, but that's an achievable amount of pages to optimize and to work on and to improve. It also mitigates some of those performance issues because they're not loading so much stuff. In 10 seconds, talk about the blog. This is their blog. They've got a new writer called Jesse something or other who writes the same kind of undifferentiated generic content as the other site that we looked at. Historically, though, they had a guy called Daniel who wrote about his passion for motorbikes, which isn't really related to batteries, but had a personality and a tone of voice. So maybe there's a middle ground they could find that combines those two, where they talk about stuff that's relevant and interesting, but with an opinion and in a way that people are going to engage with and really care about. So here's a very, very bold plan. They should consolidate the product variant pages. They should produce compelling and unique and differentiated content. They should give the blog and the whole brand maybe a bit of a voice, and they need to invest in building a culture of speed and performance. It's not enough to fix these things once. They need to understand where the gaps are and get it right on an ongoing basis. So good luck to them. Fingers crossed they should go out and win like a rainbow unicorn kid. Cool, done.
Thank you, Jono. Mammoth effort. So much information packed in there. I would say people could watch that back and pause that and pick it apart. And I guess we're no stranger to the kind of mess that we can arrive in when these things, it kind of becomes cruft over time. It just kind of manifests the more products get added. So yeah, I think there's some great advice. Cut it back, prune everything off. What's your take? You got anything to add to that, Nik?
The only thing that I can sort of think is to, I'd be very interested to sort of have a look at potential pagination issues in their URLs, and maybe whether they have canonicalized that correctly in between the pages, particularly like in e-commerce sites where there are lots and lots of products. This is a very large site. So I'd be really interested to sort of delve into that a little bit more. Yeah.
So Corey, do you have anything to add to that about this website?
I don't know how to follow that. That was amazing. Especially the unicorn kick with the cat. That was amazing. A bit of a poke around and saw a couple of small technical things that I'm sure you saw too, but with 10 minutes, how can you cover them all? The robots wasn't referencing the sitemap, which is crazy because there's this really long robots file with all kinds of crazy little bits and pieces in there, but they're not referencing the sitemap. So really simple, easy thing to do. Yeah, the content I also saw was a bit nuts and a bit all over the place, and I work at a branding place, so that's the first thing the lens that I look through things, and I think getting a good content strategy and understanding their customers a bit better and writing about things they're passionate about. Although batteries might not sound that interesting, I'm a massive nerd and I love batteries. Like my new phone has a 4,000 milliamp hour battery. Like I got really excited that it was in there. So I think there is an ability to write with passion and to share interests with their user base there if they put a bit of time and effort into writing compelling copy and content that people care about, that they can connect with.
Oh, thanks for those comments. Yeah. So look, we're just moving along with time. We'll keep things rolling. And there are some questions coming in. I don't think we're going to have time to answer them all, but maybe I'll just pick one out here, which is a nice broad topic, which we often get related to SEO. And the question here is, can I say the content building is more important than backlink building? There's a big cliche question I'm sure we all get asked. Yeah, so should we be focusing on building content or going out and building backlinks? So, yeah, what do you think? What's your take on that, Jono? Just build heaps of backlinks, buy some links, and just get a whole bunch of links and start ranking, or what?
I'm really skeptical about links. I'm very vocal about not being a links guy. But also, I think a lot of time and money that's invested in producing content is also wasted. I think that the difficult answer is that you need to build a brand. And that involves having an opinion and a personality and telling a story and standing for something and having stuff that people are interested about. And when you do that through the medium of content, and then people link to it. Like any time and effort you invest in trying to build links is not only artificial, but it's also time and resource that could have been spent investing in creating the kinds of things that would have earned you those links. And sure, there's got to be a process whereby you promote and market the things that you produce in order to get them found. But if you're focusing on building and getting links or building and producing content, you've kind of missed the higher level point, which is to produce to tell stories that earn attention in the form of links? Like, it's not an easy answer, but I think both miss the point.
Yeah. That sounds very smart, very practical, and of course, you're talking about hard yards, like hard work, building your brand. So
yeah, and that's how you compete. Like, otherwise, what differentiates people? If everyone can just go and buy some links, how does that work? Like, have a competitive advantage and a differentiating factor.
Yeah, what do you think, Nik?
Yeah, if I could sort of add to that, I'm also an advocate of having what I call evergreen content. So that's kind of more of like a content that's focused around like more of a roundup that is in the longer form, is really interactive. It's something that really adds value, that if anyone clicks onto it, they're like, oh, this is actually everything that I need to know about this topic. And I try and like encourage people to utilize that and to have great amplification kind of campaigns to direct people to that more than a backlink strategy kind of focus. So I'm also very much an advocate of that. There is before I turn it over to anyone else, but did a really good study. It exists online where they looked at like over 1 million articles that were the most shared online, like viral content, and typically that was like an average of like 1,890 words. So the kind of takeaway that I have from that is that people are happy to sort of stay on page with a lot of longer form content, as long as it's giving them some value. And I don't know, that kind of data kind of really kind of makes me stop and really think about the way that we look at content strategy and backlink strategy as a whole, to sort of revamp that.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense, Nik. Corey, did you have any comments? Are you a backlink guy or a content guy? What's your take on it?
Well, I think the answer.
We've only got about 1 minute. Sorry to make it brief.
Okay. Definitely content. Make it about your customers. 2 great points about co-host here. One of the best ways that I've seen people produce content in the past has been just by sending out a survey to their customers, finding out what they're interested and what they want. If you've got a business, talk to your salespeople. What problems are you solving? Google is in the business of solving problems. They want to put you in first place if you solve the problems of the people who are searching. So make sure that you've got good quality content that solves those issues and it lines up beautifully. Put love, heart, soul into the content that you make, and people will share it.
Okay. So we're getting close to running out of time, everyone. So it's been great, such great insights, but I do want to just extract a little bit more juice from these experts while we're on the webinar. And so I'm going to go around and ask for a quick 30-second takeaway. What's the 30-second takeaway? One thing that people could do. So Corey, while we're with you, did you have just a very quick top-level takeaway for people?
Oh, one thing, that's hard. All right. The one thing you should be really focused on is, what are you trying to achieve? What was the goal of your communication, your website? What are you trying to push people to do? That informs everything. It informs your content. It informs how you put things together. And I'll sneak a second one in there, which is get your technical SEO right. With good quality on-page SEO, it's amazing what you can achieve, and just focus on those bare basics and you will succeed.
Nice one. Best place for people to connect on LinkedIn with you, Corey?
Also, check out my meetup if you're in Adelaide. It's a great place to.
Oh, great. Okay. So, Nikki, what's the go? What's your 30-second takeaway?
Yeah, my takeaway is utilize all the tools that Google gives you. They go out of their way to really help users understand how to make content, how to optimize your site in a really great way. I think utilizing Search Console is one of the best things that you can do, because it's the only way you can kind of communicate with Google that's not necessarily through like Google Ads, because they you pay for Google Ads, so they have like a lot of content around that. But in Search Console, they've used a lot of statistics from the new console to compare that with the old console. So you get a lot of messages and notifications in there that gives a lot of great insight of what you can do with your site.
Yeah, great. What's the best place for people to connect with you, Nik?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn at Nik Ranger, or you can call WebFirm and speak to me direct.
Right. Okay. Jono, do you have some fast takeaway
some fast ones? I can do fast. Yeah. Aim for perfect. Like, so many aspects of business train us to think about not aiming for perfect. And you hear it all the time, don't aim for perfect, what's good enough? Every aspect of conventional business settles for what's the least effort, maximum reward we can get away with. It doesn't work in SEO. Every aspect of your website and your business should aim for perfect. Your technical SEO, your speed, your optimization, the quality of your content, the messaging you're giving out, like, that's how you win. You take all of those and you aim for what perfect looks like. There's so many questions coming out of the chat around things like, what's the smallest images I can get away with? Can I get away with having a generic author in this scenario? Can I get away with having no follow links? And the answer for all of those is yes, you can get away with it, but you shouldn't be optimizing for what can I get away with. You should be trying to understand the root cause behind those and aiming for perfect. And that extends beyond just the on-page SEO and the links. Like, if you're trying to make a restaurant website rank higher, training your chefs should be part of your strategy. Like, all of this should be about aiming for perfect. That's how you outrank your competitors. It's how you get links. It's how you win.
Wow. Yep. Totally agree. Lots of hard work again, sounds like.
Yep,
so what's the best channel for people to follow you on?
I'm on Twitter a lot at Jono Alderson, same on LinkedIn. And if you want to bump in person, I'm at all sorts of events. I think the next big one is at JoostCon in February in the Netherlands. If you can get over here, that's going to be fun. We're going to have all sorts of cool people like Rand Fishkin and some others who will argue with about it.
No, that's brilliant. So once again, thanks so much to our guest experts on the panel today. A lot of great insights. We didn't get around to answering all the questions, but we're certainly this is such I'm sure we all agree we love doing this for the SEO community, and that's really what it's all about, giving back to the community. So everybody tune in next month for another episode, and until then, I'll say thanks very much to the experts. Thanks to everyone in the community who tuned in, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.